Hi Stuti, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I was telling everybody that Stuti is much better at this rather than me because I'm too old for Instagram, I guess. So just give me a moment.
No, please don't underestimate yourself. In fact, in the past couple of months, I've been very less active, and I see you guys doing amazing job. So, you're definitely
Actually,
better off right now.
give me a moment. I get so nervous with Instagram lives because it's out of my comfort zone, sort of. So, anyways, we are not going to talk about that because I'll be more nervous then. Anyways, great. So,
Don't be
uh,
nervous.
I read the book and I must say I read the last one as well. This is so much better because it is. Let me be very honest. This is so introspective and contemplative at the same time. I was like, this is just what I love in books. So thank you so much for writing this one. And I'll just place a book under my this thing. What do you call stand that I've got so that I'm visible better.
Sure,
So you're not talking to a weird sort of person. So that would
sure.
be better. Yeah.
No, I'm sure I'm not talking to a weird sort of person. I'm talking to a book nerd, is what I know.
Great. So what happened was that okay, let me show the book cover to everyone. I have no clue why Instagram has not figured out this flip thing, but anyways, the book cover is lovely. The book is called Where the Sun Never Sets.
Yes,
It is based primarily in Mussoorie, and that's what we loved about it. I checked out the cover and I was like, we have to do this, Neha. We have to do this. Who else will do this? Because we are based out of Dehradun. We understand, the topography and everything about this sort of canvas that you have painted so beautifully. And I was like,
sure.
did Stuti grow up in Landor or Mussoorie? Did she do that? But we come to that later. It was very authentic. I would just like to say that it was very authentic. Whatever you have done with the book.
The biggest compliment I have received so far for this book, especially because with Goa, Goa is a place where I have actually spent a lot of time, like a lot of time. Like I keep revisiting there every year, and I keep interacting with the locals so much. So when I was writing "You Only Live Once," it was very easy for me to sort of, picturize Goa in that sense and write about it. So a lot of Goans, when they read the book, they tell me that yeah, it's very authentic. And when we read "You Only Live Once," it does feel like we are at some shack in Goa. But I am very happy that you've loved and you've given this compliment on the Mussoorie thing, because I think you're the first person in terms of my reader that I'm interacting with who is from Mussoorie, and then who's also read the book. And now I also have a validation that okay, somebody who's lived in Mussoorie feels that this is authentic, because I have not spent a lot of time in Mussoorie, but I have been to Mussoorie like 3 to 4 times, but as a tourist. So
Yeah.
I've not really spent a lot of time in that sense. So if I could bring in that originality, I think that's like a huge compliment.
It is so important, because I get very possessive about this, and especially in the movies also. And movies are a chunk of this book, kind of. It
Right.
is there, obviously, yeah, yeah. So I get very possessive about it, and my wife is like, "Don't get possessive about it. It's just, I checked out this Akshay Kumar trailer and they named Mussoorie as Kasoli. So I was like so mad. I was like, why did they do this? This and that. So I was very happy that you have done justice to this, world that you have created. And I should say that obviously there are other books. I mean, the first one which has kind of catapulted you to where you are right now.
Right.
Obviously, but on the open road was the debut book. But this one, it was like finally you were perhaps the time that you have written it in or whatever. It was like, okay, this is Stuti is right there. She's like kind of hitting the right spots with everything. Everything, nothing is messy at all. The writing is like on point. I don't know who the editor is, but they have done a great job. Everything was on point, and I'm not just
Huge
saying it
shout,
because you're
yeah,
here.
you know, huge shout out to my editor. I do feel he's done a fantastic job at prodding me and, you know, telling me where things were not getting like really interesting and
Yeah.
all. So Saksham Garg is my editor, like who's worked extensively on
Section is
this
right
book.
here.
So huge
Section is
shout
right
out to
here.
him. Is he here? Wow, if he's here, then oh yeah, he's saying thanks to me. Yeah,
Here,
so
Saksham was like, मेरे को compliment दो, वरना I'm just emailing these guys कि मेरे को compliment नहीं कर रहे.
in fact, you know, coming up with his own book in some time, and you know, let us just all wish him the best for that.
Right. So I'm sure with his experience with so many, authors, he will do a great job. And now he's giving competition to you guys. This is not fair. He knows everything about the business. It's not fair, right? We're talking about Saksham, and perhaps we can add him in a bit. Why not? We can add him to the live if he can send us a request or something. We
Why
would love
not?
to add him.
That would be like that is
Nothing
something.
better, right?
I don't know if he's in that zone where he can be on a video.
I have no idea. I have no clue. But I'm just saying, if Saksham, you're listening to this and you want to be talk to us for a jiffy, like couple of minutes, do send in a request and I'll add you.
Drop in, and obviously, if you're in that zone.
I'm already bad at Instagram live. So how can I suck more? It doesn't matter. Anyway, so before Saksham does that, on page 129, Stuti, and it is so amazing that you have written this. It was like, how is she writing this? You have written, you are a writer and you must pen down fictional accounts separately. You must label it as fiction in your diary as well as your head. What concerns me is the fact that you might unknowingly become a compulsive liar. To be unable to distinguish between fact and fiction in real life could have serious repercussions on the quality of your life. Oh my gosh, this is like, I don't know. I was like, am I authentic in my post when I write on LinkedIn or whatever? Am I authentic? Am I fooling people, or am I just being so authentic that I was judging myself, when I read this. I don't know what the intention was behind this, but it didn't do me any favors. It was, you were very close to kind of, psychoanalyzing people here. So tell us more about this.
Okay, so in this bit, I'm talking about the fact that sometimes as writers, and not just as writers, like you just gave an example where you said that you also write and post a lot of stuff on, let's say, LinkedIn, and when you reread it, sometimes you have that question, or you have that doubt for yourself that whether I meant exactly what I have written. So sometimes you go over the top, like you write more than what could be real, and sometimes you get very, very authentic, like you just bear yourself out there in front of people, and then it's open to comments, and people are of course judging it all the time when you're on social media. The point that I'm trying to make here is that sometimes we start believing in our own story, which could be fiction, so much that we are not able to draw that line between fact and fiction. And we start believing in the version of story that we are telling, or in the version of story that's fiction. And sometimes when we narrate that story to someone else, it is coming from a place where it's not real anymore. It has a bit of you. It is fictional, and that kind of makes you compulsive liar, and you don't know. You don't even know that you're lying, but you're lying. And that's, the thing. I mean, I would say that's the beauty of fiction. And obviously it has two sides to it. One side is that if you're a writer, this is amazing. You can actually use it to finish your book, to write, to do so many things. But on the other hand, if we talk about it from a mental health perspective, like here, Iti started believing in what she was writing in her diary, and not every time it was true, right? So now she is unknowingly a compulsive liar. And that might have serious repercussions, on a quality of life of anyone, because when we start telling these stories to other people, sometimes they understand that we are lying, and they might lose that trust in us because they might feel ये तो कहानियां सुनाती है, or she just makes it up in her own head and this is not true. So it might then again have a repercussion on the relationship that we share with someone. So that's the thing that I wanted to bring out. And since Iti is a writer here in this book, I also wanted to bring about this thing about writers and their life, that not a lot of people know that, writers unknowingly become compulsive liars.
Right. I know. It is so interesting, because I'm sure only a writer will kind of experience this. But before that, we have jumped the gun. This book is about kind of, about a lot what happened to so many people. A lot of people from big cities moved back to their hometowns. And Mussoorie, in this case, is the hometown, of course. And, they were kind of, nobody wants to go out as such, right? I mean, it's just for opportunities. You want better opportunities in life, you move out and experience new things. But when you come back, then you start kind of, and a lot of people have just, stayed back. This is the reality. And people are, experimenting with work from home, hybrid mode, whatever, a lot of stuff that is happening. So when you're back kind of in this scenario, you have left behind friendships, right? And that's what you have kind of written about. It is so real. And I was like, you are actually challenging your reader this time, because previously, obviously it was great, but this time around, you were like challenging the reader. Acha, ab ye pad ke dikhao, waise wala, it was kind of that. And I love that about, writers when they kind of start sort of challenging the reader ki acha ab dekho ab tumhe samajh mein aata ki nahi aata, that ways. So
Right.
Tell us about this reverse migration, and this is a topic that you have dealt with very directly in the book.
Right.
And you haven't written a non-fiction about it, but it is a great way to kind of present this sort of huge reverse migration that happened during the lockdown.
Right. So, I have on purpose written about it. So this is no accident, or this is not by chance that I've written about it. And there's a very big reason why I did so. And I think a lot of my stories come from my own personal experiences. So in the lockdown, like you would have read it in the prologue, that, I had to move back to my hometown when my mother was not well. And living that fear, living in that edge of losing someone you love. Is not really a very comfortable feeling, and you start imagining things, right? Whether they happen to you or not, you just start imagining things. And when that imagination happens, in the retrospect, you also question certain choices. Like I started questioning myself that, Stuti, what was the need to move out in the first place? Why couldn't you be with her? And let's say if you were with her right now, how different things would have been. So I think it came from that personal insecurity. It came from that place of personal vulnerability, where I decided that no, I want to take this up and I want to write about this, because it's not only me. There would be so many people stuck in the lockdown, who are just longing to meet their loved ones, but they cannot because they are stuck at a particular place. And then I spoke to a couple of friends. So some of them were stuck in metropolitan cities, while some of them were stuck abroad. And you see that kind of helplessness, like if somebody's in the US or somebody's back in Australia and the family's here, India, and they want to be here, but they cannot be here because there's no flight, there's no ship, there's no way you can be here, there's no time machine. So you start questioning yourself in those times. And I think that is what happened to me. And I deliberately then chose this topic that, okay, I want to write about this reverse migration that's happening, where people are realizing how much important family is, how much important spending time with your loved ones is, because you just don't know how much time you have with them. I think it's very stupid or very dumb of us to assume that we have an eternity to spend with people that we love. But everyone's time is limited and we don't know how much time they have. So whatever time you have, let's just make the most of it. So this book talks about moving back to your hometown. It talks about that whole family thing. It talks about being with people who need you, who love you, and to be there when they need you. by their
Yeah.
side. And it deliberately.
And the Purana crush also.
Sorry, and the
And the Purana crush also, which you have left behind somewhere. So that angle was so right there. I was like, "Bhai, ye kyun likh rahi hai is bare mein? Don't write about this. I don't want to read this. I don't want to go back in time." Because it is hard to kind of. I live in my hometown, so you would imagine what happens to me. Because I have been to all these places like zillions of times. And to
right.
make new memories out of it, it is so tough. And that's the kind of struggle what I felt there. And it was like, भाई क्यों लिख दिया स्तुति ने ऐसा मत लिखो. Anyway, so
Again,
this book was very meta. Yeah.
because we all had to go through that, right? हम लोग सब अपने होम टाउन वापस गए और आई थिंक हम सबके साथ वो हुआ that we were faced with the memories of our past. कुछ लोग हैं जिनसे आप मिलना चाहते हो वो भी आपको मिलते हैं, जिनसे आप नहीं मिलना चाहते हो वो भी आपको मिल सकते हैं. So I think that's the real thing that happened to people. And ये crush वाला जो पूरा part है कि she meets or she has to go through her past and see her first crush again. I think that's all on purpose.
But it's so relevant. I mean, it's not contrived. It happens. I mean, it is a fact. I mean, there are some, you have just mentioned one crush. There are others with multiple crushes who, who were like, should I go out of the house or not? Because I know so many people, when I get back. This book, Stuti, was like so meta. And I was like, I watched Deadpool, the first part back in the day. And when Deadpool looks into the camera and talks to the audience, it was like that, you're just talking to us every time. I mean, every third or fourth page, you're talking to the audience or talking to yourself. It was like, what is happening? It is like, a Nolan film going on, sort of thing, sort of situation. So when you're writing in these layers, kind of, it seems very innocuous, when you are a reader. Ki, chalo,
Wow.
likh liya hoga.
I mean, being compared with a Christopher Nolan film, I think इससे बड़ा क्या compliment हो सकता है?
I mean, it is the premise is that only, na.
Right.
The premise is that you are kind of it is strange because I'm not capable enough to understand what it takes to write like that. So
Right.
take us through what does it take to do that, because it seems innocuous and easy कि चलो हो जाएगा, क्या दिक्कत है, कर लेंगे ऐसा on paper.
Okay. So the writing style again is very deliberate. So if you will read the book, and I see a lot of readers who've joined in, and thank you so much, guys. I mean, I see questions coming in. I will take it up right in the.
हाँ, अभी इसके बाद questions ही लेने हैं.
Sure. We'll take your questions up. So guys, please hang on, be there, stay there. Yeah. So this whole thing, of writing it in the form of a diary entry is very, very intentional. And I still remember having that conversation with my editor where I told him that, I want to do it on purpose because it allows me a chance to be vulnerable. It allows me a chance to be very, very real and authentic. I don't have to fake it up. So when I'm writing in the form of a diary, you feel that I'm directly talking to you or the character is directly talking to you, just because diary as a medium is something that allows you to be authentic and vulnerable, right? You're not making it up. So if she was, writing a script, let's say, or if she was writing a blog, let's say, if she was writing a letter, let's say. So letter again you write to someone else and थोड़ी सी बातें बनावटी होती हैं, सारी बातें सच नहीं होती जो आप लिखते हो. But when you're talking to your own self, now this is where आप किसको झूठ बोलोगे, you are right there in front of you and you have to be real. So writing, the entire book in the form of a diary entry allowed my character to be vulnerable, allowed her to be authentic. And that's the reason why at a lot of times you feel that, it's like a Deadpool movie where Deadpool's talking to you, he's talking to the audience. And I think that kind of...
This is how what I'm talking about, it is kind of this,
Yeah.
It has got that kind of structure. It's like a journal, so it's quite easy to read in that way. Then just like your previous books, you have kind of, broken it down well for the new age reader, because
right.
We need that. I mean, let's be honest. We don't like reading more than 200 pages. We don't like spending more than $200. We don't like kind of, being sort of troubled with long, chapters or long narrative. We need breaks. So you have cracked it. I know that because you come from a self-publishing, route. So you understand all that very well, and you kind of have taken it to the traditional publishers also. Ki bhai, isse zyada nahi hoga. So just keep it to it's brilliant. Let's take a question.
Yeah.
We'll keep on talking about that. Meenakshi is saying you are an extensive traveler. I forgot to mention that you have traveled the globe and you are still traveling like across. Has that changed the way you look at Mussoorie? I think Stuti froze for a bit and she would be back. Until then, guys, just give me a moment. I think Stuti sent a request again. Give me a moment, guys. Yeah, she's back.
Hi again. Okay, I did something very silly actually. I'm very sorry, guys. I was just looking at the questions and somehow the the entire screen went off. So really sorry about that.
I'm telling you, Instagram Live is like that only. It is like that. It happens to everyone. I'm not the only one.
I did listen to your question. I did listen to your question, and I'm taking that one up. So,
sure.
Of course, I mean, I am a traveler and I love traveling. And while I have been to so many places, out of India, I sincerely believe that India is a very, very beautiful country. With all the diverse landscape that you will want, whether it's mountains, whether it's the sea, whether it's a forest, whether it's an island, you'll find everything here. So I sincerely believe that India is the most beautiful country that I've seen. And it did change my whole opinion. So why I've written about Mussoorie is because I felt that the beauty of this place needs to be described, it needs to be told. And one of the things that I do with my stories, I write fiction, but one of the things that I do with my stories is that I do mention some place that I've been and I've loved, because I travel extensively, and I chose Goa as a premise or as a background for my book You Only Live Once, and people loved it. And this time it was on purpose Mussoorie, because when I went to Mussoorie, I've been to a lot of hill stations, but there's something very enigmatic about Mussoorie. There's something very nice about Mussoorie, and I wanted to capture that. And that's the reason.
Landor, in fact, is one of a kind. I mean, it is just a little place. It is. I mean, previously nobody knew about it, but abhi to sabko pata chal gaya. In fact, the maximum writers live there. And I was, we always have a discussion about, this. When will the next Mr. Bond come in? Who will write about Mussoorie in an awesome way? Which it deserves.
Right.
There are many writers who have attempted it, but I think you have done justice to it, and I would like to compliment you on that, because it is very hard. The only thing I missed was that we needed a crossover. We needed Mr. Bond in there. You must have. Did you think about it? Of doing a crossover?
I did think about it, and there's a blog. So the first thing that I ever did about Mussoorie was write a blog. This was back in college, 6 years back. And in that blog, there was a line which said that if Sir Ruskin Bond would have known me, he would have loved me for sure. This was one line which I had written because before this line, I was just explaining the beauty of Mussoorie. And then I was saying, I was giving myself validation by saying that if he would have known me, then he would have loved me for sure. And I think I wanted to write one such line in this book also, but I somehow have missed it. But definitely, I mean, the way he has described Mussoorie, nobody ever can, I mean, we can find people who can go 80-90% up to what he's done, but definitely the kind of, or the amount of contribution that he's done in terms of bringing it to a, mainstream audiences and people knowing and understanding how beautiful, the place is. So I think nobody can ever do that a fantastic job.
But I'm sure editor ne bhi kaat diya hota, because it would have been too contrived, na? It would have taken attention away from sort of the narrative, perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe I'm not sure about this one, but Could be. I mean, so one of the things which is again I want to mention is that my editor Saksham has spent a good amount of time in Mussoorie. So I think he was also a great force in the sense that wherever I would write something which is unreal, which is not something that goes, completely with the vibe of the place, then he would come back to me and say, "Ki, not Mussoorie-ish,"
Give us an example, because what you have kept in the book is very authentic. I mean, हमें भी मतलब
Right.
we are regular visitors to these places, so we have an idea what's going on. Well, I mean, describing as a simple thing as describing a pagdandi, that
Right.
is also, that's where I judge kind of someone who is kind of explaining the place कि अगर इसने पगडंडी को सही बता दिया ना तो मतलब इसने समझ लिया मतलब कि यहाँ पे सही है सीन.
Right.
So the stuff you did not keep, like what Saksham said कि चलो इसको निकाल देते हैं कोई.
एक्चुअली ना टू बी ऑनेस्ट निकाला तो है काफी कुछ और वो मुझे इतना याद नहीं है बिकॉज इट्स बिन मोर देन 8 or 9 months that we edited this book, बट कुछ ऐड करवाया है. दैट वन आई डू रिमेम्बर एंड आई विल शेयर. सो there's a whole incident, was the chapter number the adventure where they are going on this trip and right, so where they're going on this whole thing and they're walking in the night and they're ये ghost hunting and all जो हम करते हैं बचपन में, all this nuisance do कि वहां पे खजाना गड़ा है, let's go, let's gang up and there's something very cute that the 3 characters who are friends, they as friends go and do it, like they go on a ghost hunting. So I think that interesting idea was something that popped up in Saksham's head, and he told me that it will also allow us to a chance to talk about the hills in night. So we've been talking about the hills, you've been talking about the hills, but it's mostly in the morning, it's in the afternoon, it's before sunset. But we've not spoken about the beauty of hills or that thrill or that adventure of hills which comes after जब चांद चढ़ता है. We're just talking about जब सूरज चढ़ता होता है. So I think that
it is just another beast. Hills look very cute and beautiful in the day, but at night it can get really scary.
Really scary because there's no iota of light.
Totally.
You're away from the human civilization, and there are places where there's zero iota of light and there's nothing, and you just have to like figure your way out. So I think that whole incident, obviously I made it up, it was completely fictional and I wrote it, but that little idea, that little nudge, that let's also talk about hills in the night, it will do justice to the beauty of hills, it will do the justice to Mussoorie. I think that thing came from there, and then I wrote. So the adventure was not a part of the story, it became a part of the story afterwards.
Okay. It is authentic because that happens, what you have written about. I won't reveal it, of course. People have to buy the book and read it. But it happens a lot. And it was, मतलब आपने तो कम ही दिखाया है मतलब उस हिसाब से. But और भी ज़्यादा, there was scope there. But I guess it was not the integral to the plot, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. Otherwise, the book would have felt like, would have gone a little bit into the thriller horror genre, because I have a lot of ghost stories that I can talk about, but then I think वो थोड़ा डरावना हो जाता, maybe not for the audience. So
वो Penguin के second contract, first contract में इतना ही है बस.
Sure.
So this is an indication to Penguin कि चलो अब contract कर दो और ghost stories or whatever coming up. So
let's do
keeping a young professional suffering from an existential crisis at a time when that is the case for a lot of youngsters, what advice would you give them? In fact, a lot of youngsters have kind of not still figured it out, how they want to go forward. Because there are some people who just figured it out कि चलो हमें work from home and hybrid, whatever. And with family also, some people are left behind here in small towns. They don't have any idea what to do, how to figure stuff out. They have the money, but they don't know what to do with it, and then how to take your life forward again. It's quite tough because the wavelength also kind of changes.
Right. So, existential crisis as a topic is something which is my favorite. So I talk about it. I mean, you would agree. We've also, my characters are always in an existential crisis. They are not perfect. All of
I
my.
know.
So whether you read On the Open Road, whether you read You Only Live Once, whether you read Where the Sun Never Sets, and not just the protagonists, sometimes also the side characters, they have an existential crisis. And I think I want to talk about it because it is something that we don't talk about a lot, and it is something which is very common. I mean,
Right.
80% people I can say that I know, and obviously my subset is just urban India people that I know. I might not know about everyone, but from my experience, if I have to vouch for it, then 80% people that I come across are still not sure in their lives that if they're doing something, they're not sure if it's right or wrong. Sometimes they're not sure about whether to do this or not. So I think existential crisis as a problem exists across age groups and across people, and it's very common. So I definitely make it a point to talk about it. Now, something which I can say from the bottom of my heart is that, you know, I cannot give an advice to someone who is going through an existential crisis as to what you have to do. My books are not about that, nor are my characters about that. My characters will nudge you to set out on a journey of your own and to figure it out by your own self, because nobody can tell you what's perfect for you and what's what will work for you and what will not work for you. Eventually in life there comes a point where you have to figure it out for yourself. You will fail. So if I give my personal example, I am an engineer. I did an MBA, and then I also worked in sales. And then I realized that no, writing is something that, you know, I want to pursue as a serious career, as like a profession, or like I want to write books. And I started doing that. But was I always sure? No. Even after publishing 2 of my books, I was not sure. I was still in existential crisis. There was an iota of existential crisis still present where I used to think, मैंने सही तो किया ना, मुझे वापस जाके या फिर सब कुछ चेंज करना चाहिए. Now I am at a place where I am a lot more contented and a lot more happy with what I did, but it was not always the case. And I think I figured out this journey for myself alone, and it never happens overnight. It took me 4 years or 5 years to figure it out. So if you're looking to a solution in your life, just jump, you know, just do that. You will get the answer on your own. You might commit some mistakes on the way, but eventually whether it is my books, whether it is me, or whether it is my character, everybody is going to tell you the same thing, that this is your path, this is your journey, you need to take it for yourself, and you need to figure it, your way out of the existential crisis. Nobody can advise you on what's right and what's wrong. Bas apni suno, you know, something like that.
I think into the book I was like till page 120 or something. I was like, okay, ठीक है. But after that, now you came into your own. Just my observation. From page 125 to say 135 or so, it was like another author. You know, you started kind of going deeper. If I can say that, I can't explain it in words right now. But when the reader actually reads the book, they buy the book first. पहले तो खरीदनी है, पहले खरीदना है आपको, उसके बाद फिर पढ़ेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि once you reach that point in the narrative, in the book, things start to get kind of really introspective और थोड़ा मतलब deep dive हो रहा है, क्योंकि perhaps you have realized that अब तो मतलब ये लोग आ गए हैं, मतलब अब इनको बताती हूँ मैं, it is like that. So on page 132 you're writing about existential stuff again, which comes from an authentic place, because somebody who has seen all the ups will not be able to write like this. I genuinely believe that. So like happiness derived from existing isn't ephemeral, and you're sounding like a monk here, so it is great. It seems to last forever. My skin glows like fireflies and my mind is focused like a hermit's. It's almost poetic, and it is the stuff I love about good writers. They write about very sort of everyday stuff and make it beautiful. And this part and all this part, I don't know if you have realized this kind of progression in the writing, but as a reader I was like, अच्छा अब तो 125 के बाद तो कुछ अलग ही चल रहा है मतलब यहाँ पे. And then again you obviously at the end goes into another sort of tone. But in the middle, it was like very personal and delving deep, almost like, did you write this during the lockdown? Na? You wrote this in the lockdown. I
Yeah.
suppose it was that, perhaps.
Yes. So I have written this. I will read it again. Actually, it's lovely. I mean, if there are people, they should read it. Happiness derived from existing isn't ephemeral. It seems to last forever. My skin glows like fireflies, and my mind is focused like a hermit's. Lockdown is not that terrifying after all. I have started finding peace in my own company. I don't need a lot of people to keep me happy all the time. My expectations from life are so low now that it's almost impossible to not satisfy me. And I think this comes from a time in my life where there was lockdown. Obviously, we were not allowed to move a lot, and we were like obviously caged. In a sense, we can say that we were jailed for not committing any crime, and we've all been through this phase. And it talks about finding happiness in existing, because suddenly life became so limited, and you were still happy, you were still living. So I'll tell you, the problem with our generation is that we are driven by FOMO, which is the
You
fear
need
of
people, right? You need people all the time. Like, is it like that?
you need you
Yeah.
need people, and then you also need to do a lot of things to keep yourself happy. So if I'm on social media and I see, oh, somebody's eating nice food, or if somebody's wearing a good dress, or if I see that somebody's traveling, or if I see anything of that sort, then there's a place of insecurity from where FOMO comes. And I think it's very, very common in our generation, because the social media has made it, social media has made people so vulnerable. People just judge things by what they see, and they don't understand that जरूरी नहीं है कि सामने वाला आपको सब कुछ सच दिखा रहा है. Nobody posts about having a bad day. Nobody posts if they meet with an accident. Nobody posts when something bad happens in their family, or if they slip and fall in a pit, or if they're stuck in traffic for 8 hours. Nobody is posting about that. Everybody is posting about the fancy dinners that they have, about the fancy clothes that they wear, about the fancy vacations that they are taking. And somehow our entire generation is just caught in that circle where we are looking up to other people, feeling that insecurity, and we want to do the same things, and we feel that our life is not happy at all. I think lockdown for a lot of people, including me, was a time where you understood the importance of loving your own company, of loving your own self, and you realized that just being able to live is something that you were grateful for. You needed nothing else to be happy. You did not need the best of food. You did not need the best of clothes. You did not need the best of vacations. You were in a room for 6 months, for 4 months, and you existed and you found happiness there, which in itself is a proof that to be happy, you don't need all these things. These are just something that people are trying to sell to you or push it on your face. But you don't need this to be happy. You can be happy in your own company, and people figured that out. I think for me, I changed completely. Lockdown was a huge life lesson in that sense. And now, in fact, अब तो lockdown है भी नहीं, पर मुझे लगता है कि मेरी लाइफ से एक्सपेक्टेशंस बहुत लो हो चुकी हैं. एंड आई फाइंड हैप्पीनेस इन जस्ट सिटिंग ऑन माय डेस्क एंड राइटिंग, even if I'm not able to travel, even if I'm not able to meet friends, do anything, because मैंने अपने लाइफ को उतना कंट्रोल कर लिया. So it's not my mind, that's controlling me. I have somehow gained that control over my mind as to what can make me happy and what cannot. So I think this whole line, happiness derived from just existing, and it isn't ephemeral. Like, it's not short-lived. It's long-lasting. You can always find, always, wherever you are. So if you start finding...
And the context, Stuti, the context is so, I mean, of course, it's an Instagram live, another Instagram live. We have done this before. You have done this like millions of times. But, these lessons are very important. you don't have to make a reel if you don't really want to, right? I mean, don't do
Right.
it. वही मत करो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
Right.
So,
Right.
and everybody would be like, तू तो बना रहा है आजकल रील, बड़ा start कर दिया रील बनाना, but you know, I do it because I am enjoying it. Otherwise, I am not forced to do it. So, anyway, so it is. This book, I feel, is the finest coming out of your closet, and I feel everybody should pick it up. Everybody who went through whatever existentialism, personal crisis or whatever, even evolution. A lot of my friends have gone through immense evolution during the lockdown. There
Right.
has been, negatives, of course, but there are great stories coming out of the lockdown. People who are not even great stories. People who understand, oneself better. So all these things are so awesome. Okay, since it's the book nerds and we have to talk about books, give us one or two books which we should pick up going forward. The communities here, they would love to kind of, get a recommendation from you.
Okay. There are a lot of books that are so good and that you should just pick up. So I think just choosing two would be a problem. But there's a very popular book. I don't know. I think a lot of, आपकी readers community में सब readers हैं, तो शायद लोगों ने पढ़ी ही होगी. But I think it's a very sweet, simple, nice book that I always tell people you should read. And the book is called Tuesdays with Morrie. So I think that everybody should once in their lifetime, read that book. Even if you're a teenager.
Everybody has not read the book. In fact, people post about it कि उन्होंने पढ़ी है, but ज़्यादातर लोगों ने नहीं पढ़ी है अभी भी. So it is a great recommendation.
Okay, and no matter what age group you're in, so this book, I love the beauty of this book is that even if you're an 8-year-old school going kid, or if you're an 80-year-old retired personnel who's looking for adventure in books, it suits everyone. So that's why I want to give this recommendation that go ahead and read.
It was my first book ever. This was the first book, and I shouldn't say it. I don't know. My wife is listening to this or not. She must not be. She must be taking care of the kids. It was gifted to me by my girlfriend. So I was like, अब तो पढ़ना ही है, मतलब girlfriend ने दे दिया तो पढ़ना ही. So there are people who are part of your journey, right?
Right. And there's another book. Now, this is a little odd recommendation. The book is called If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. And the book is actually in Italian originally. So obviously you can read the translation, which is in English. You should read this book because one, it talks about existentialism. Second, the way it's written, it's so unique. It is so unique that I just cannot put it into words. मतलब आप पढ़ोगे ना आप सोचोगे क्या लिख दिया है. The book is in second person, and not a lot of books are written in second person. They are either in first person or in third person, and he's talking to you just like this whole Deadpool thing that we were discussing. Where he's looking into the camera and talking to you. It is so interesting. So I think that is something you can try. I think someone's asking what was the first recommendation. It was Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. So you should read this book. It's an amazing book and everybody should read it once.
और सस्ती भी है, सबसे बड़ी सस्ती भी है. अब तो क्योंकि 2000 में लॉन्च हुई थी ना.
200 page book, right? It's a short book. So जो लोग बहुत लंबा नहीं पढ़ पाते, if you're not into thick books, then go for it. I mean, it's a beautiful small book.
जैसा आपका स्ट्रक्चर रहता है वैसे ही स्ट्रक्चर है उसका भी. शॉर्ट है और सस्ती भी है और 2000 में पब्लिश हुई थी वो तो. So you can just order it and read it and get a Kindle copy also. How does it matter? But हाँ, कुछ ऐसी किताबें होती है ना जिनकी आपके पास मतलब हार्ड कॉपी होनी चाहिए. वो इनमें से वो बुक इनमें से है, मतलब कि
you should have a hard bound of this one अगर available है तो.
हाँ, that is even better. I always prefer hard copies, but yes, I mean the economics of publishing doesn't allow that every time. Awesome.
आप Amazon से खरीदो. This is like a request from my side that if you can support local vendors and you can support a local bookstore, please go ahead and buy from a local bookstore. I think it's time that we, as a community, understand the importance of supporting our community, and we do so.
Yeah. इसमें भी all these things are catered to. When the sun never sets has got lots of issues in there, very subtly put, क्योंकि we know that Stuti is an activist, but she can't pursue it, full time. So she mentions it here and there कि चलो यहाँ पे लिख देते हैं इसके बारे में. Vocal for local, everything is there.
I've done that in my book also, that please support local vendors, not just bookshops, everyone. I mean, just local community, local vendors. If you have an option, please go ahead and buy from a local shop.
Yeah. Awesome. I had so many other questions. I like पूरे notes खराब हो गए मेरे आज. मैंने पूरा लिखा हुआ था, इतना लंबा कुछ चौड़ा लिखा हुआ था, पूरे notes खराब हो गए. But it's always great with you when when I start talking with you, it goes in another direction, but it turns out okay. So it's always like that. Great book, guys. Pick it up, and we can talk like for longer. But Stuti has got other books to write. She needs to go and do that as well. She's on social media everywhere. Follow the SC family. She calls it that. SC family में आ जाइए और बुक खरीदिए, तीनों खरीदिए. पहले तो ये वाली खरीदिए, उसके बाद बाकी खरीदिए, तो आपको समझ में आएगा मैं क्या कह रहा था. The sort of exponential curve that your writing career is. It is like self-publishing say or Jana, or it is a beautiful story that you have kind of woven here for all of us readers, and we look forward to perhaps hosting you in Mussoorie or Landor someday with these books. Why not?
So, that would be a dream come true, and I'd love to do that. And about the thing that you were mentioning earlier, that you couldn't ask a lot of questions, I think we did sort of manage to like chat very effortlessly, and I think we had a very natural conversation, just like we were on a coffee date.
I think we are good at it. After 300 sessions, we are decently good at it. So
so I think चलता है, कभी-कभी हो जाता है, it's fine. So I think it was a fantastic session.
I don't want to go into the darker sides of this book, to be honest. There are darker sides. Let me tell you, people who would like to go there, I would. You are most welcome. But for now, for this session, we didn't go there because it's much more than that. Also, it has got silver clouds all the way, and so we talked about that primarily. Some intense stuff as well in between. But the takeaway for me is that this book is relevant for everyone. So that's what I feel about the book. So thanks to Penguin, we are able to do this, and thank you, Stuti, for being here. We have gone a little bit over time, and sorry about that. I just didn't realize. So
thank you so much. Huge shout out to Penguin India for introducing us in the first place with my first live. This is the second live that we are doing together actually, and I hope we do a lot more in the future. And thank you so much for always being so welcoming, and thank you for the much needed validation that I wanted for a very long time about the book being an authentic representation of Mussoorie. So I think that one did make my day. And thanks to everyone.
बुकनर्ड्स वाले जितने कम्युनिटी वाले हैं, देहरादून मसूरी वाले, उनको तो पसंद आएगी, मुझे पता है. That will happen, so thank you so much for doing justice to this canvas, and yeah, looking forward to other stuff that is coming our way. Is there something coming our way soon?
There is something brewing. There's something that's slated for release early next year, but I'll talk about it after some time. The interesting thing that's coming up is a Hindi version of You Only Live Once. Like, the book's coming in Hindi now. That is a very promising thing for me as a writer.
Wonderful. No, I didn't ask you because I don't know why I didn't ask you. There is Booknerds Hindi also. They are even better than us. So somebody is saying you are my biggest inspiration. So that's great. Admirable.
Thank you. I am so happy that.
तो हिंदी के बारे में जो बात कर रहे थे ना हम, हिंदी बुकनेट्स हिंदी भी है, और हिंदी में तो मतलब the style of your writing will kind of be awesome. We're looking forward to that. Is it released or coming up?
No. So I think you got me wrong. It's not a new book. It's You Only Live Once that's now coming also as a Hindi.
मुझे पता है, उसी के बारे में बोल रहा हूँ मैं कि वो रिलीज हो चुकी है कि
नहीं. वो होगी. It's coming really super soon. Like मतलब maybe within a month. It's going to be up for pre-orders.
सही है, तो great. So we look forward to that. जो लोग हिंदी में पढ़ते हैं वो लोग हिंदी पे पढ़ सकते हैं, बुकनर्ड्स
Yes.
हिंदी पे भी टैग कर देना जब पढ़ोगे तो, और बुकनर्ड्स को भी टैग कर देना, रिव्यू
Sure.
लिख देना Amazon पे। और अब हम चलते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच Stuti, awesome talking to you like always, and looking forward to so much more from you. Awesome.
Thank you, Jayashri. I loved your comments, and thank you to every reader who joined in. Hope you all have a lovely evening, happy weekend, and bye-bye.
Bye.